I want to start tonight by sharing a truth that is both deeply personal and universally shared. It's the feeling of walking into a room, looking at every successful, polished person around you, and having a single, sinking thought: I am the only one who doesn't belong here. I experienced this feeling acutely a few years ago. I had just been given a new responsibility, a promotion, a big project, something I was supposed to be celebrating. But for weeks, I couldn't sleep. Every morning, I woke up convinced that someone, somewhere, was about to send an email revealing that a terrible mistake had been made. That they would finally discover I wasn't the competent person they thought I was. I was waiting for the phone call that would expose me as a fraud. I sat alone with that fear, believing my panic was a sign of my own unique inadequacy. It was an exhausting, isolating secret. This, my friends, is the universal lie of isolation. The lie tells us that we are all walking around with a complex, messy, 10,000-page internal novel filled with fears, anxieties, cringeworthy memories, and deep-seated doubts, and that everyone else is just reading a pamphlet. We assume that our inner world, with all its shadows and quirks, is ours alone, and that everyone else is tidy, organized, and emotionally stable. This lie is what keeps us quiet. It keeps us nodding and smiling when someone asks, "How are you?" while we're internally screaming. It prevents us from seeking help, from being vulnerable, and most critically, from realizing that the things we think are unique signs of our weakness are actually shared, essential parts of our humanity. We are far more alike in our struggles than we are different in our successes. Today, we are going to dismantle that lie. We're going to step out of the shadows and bring 10 of these hidden experiences into the light. These are 10 undeniable facts of the human experience that prove, absolutely, that you are not on this journey alone. My goal for the next 30 minutes is simple: to transform the paralyzing thought of "I am the only one" into the profoundly connecting realization that I am a person, and I am not alone. Our first fact is about the sneaky, internal voice that tells us we're faking it. The truth is, the imposter syndrome is chronic. It doesn't care about your degrees, your title, or your bank account. It's the feeling that sits on your shoulder when you get a promotion, a compliment, or an award, whispering, they've made a mistake. They haven't seen the real data. It's only a matter of time until they find out you don't know what you're doing. I've met CEOs of major companies, world-class researchers, and published authors, and every single one of them, at some point, has felt like they were bluffing. They have the same fear, the fear of being exposed. Think about it. How many times this past year have you received a genuine compliment and immediately dismissed it or downplayed it? "Oh, it was nothing. I just got lucky. Anyone could have done that." We deflect the praise because, internally, we haven't given ourselves permission to believe we deserve it. We fear that accepting the compliment is like signing a contract we can't fulfill. This feeling of being an imposter is so incredibly common that it was officially identified by psychologists decades ago. It's not a character flaw, it's a pattern of thinking that intelligent, high-achieving people often fall into. You are not alone because only competent people feel the imposter syndrome. If you were truly a fraud, you wouldn't be worried about being one. So, the next time that little voice whispers, "You're a fake," let it be your proof, your first piece of evidence, that you are surrounded by people who are just as capable, and just as secretly terrified, as you are. We worry about the past, and we worry about the present. But what happens when the pressure from both becomes too much? Let's talk about fact number 3. We are all secretly terrified of mediocrity. We live in a culture saturated with the constant need to hustle, to optimize, to be a legend. We are bombarded with success stories of 20-year-old millionaires and people who are doing truly spectacular, world-changing things. And this constant exposure creates a deep, quiet terror inside many of us, the fear that we are simply not doing enough, or worse, that our lives will turn out to be merely average. This fear is often what drives our burnout. We stare at a project, a goal, or a messy house and feel paralyzed, not because the task is too hard, but because we fear the outcome won't be spectacular. We tell ourselves, if I can't be amazing, why try at all? We push ourselves past exhaustion, sacrificing sleep and sanity, all because we view an average, balanced life as a kind of moral failure. But let me tell you the truth that proves you are not alone. Mediocrity is a fear, not a destiny. The person next to you who seems to have it all together, they are wrestling with the exact same fear. They are quietly wondering if they should be starting a side business, writing a book, or giving up their evenings. This common pressure cooker of spectacular or bust is a shared burden of modern life. The antidote is not to achieve more. The antidote is to realize that a life of deep connection, quiet contentment, and meaningful relationships is not a failure of ambition, it is the very definition of a life well lived. So, grant yourself the grace to be good enough today. By doing so, you are joining a vast, silent majority who are finally giving themselves permission to breathe. If facts 1, 2, and 3 are the anxieties that pressure us, fact number 4 is the physical consequence. Everyone hits the burnout wall. We live under the illusion that consistency is the key to success. We believe that if we just push harder, stay up later, and sacrifice more, we can avoid failure. But the human body and mind are not machines. They have limits. And when those limits are violently ignored, you hit the wall. What does this look like? It's not just being tired. It's staring blankly at your computer screen, knowing you have a deadline, but literally feeling too heavy to click the mouse. It's the profound, physical exhaustion where even simple tasks, like opening mail or making a phone call, feel like Olympic feats. You become convinced that this specific, crippling inability to function is your personal failing. But let me assure you, this feeling is universally shared. Every single person who has ever achieved anything significant has had to confront their own limit. I guarantee that the person who seems to be running on endless energy has, at some point, cancelled plans, retreated to the shower to cry for 10 minutes, or simply laid on the floor and stared at the ceiling for an hour, totally depleted. Burnout is not a moral failing, it is a biological alarm. It's your body finally screaming, your capacity is not infinite. You cannot pour from an empty cup. The beautiful part of this truth is that when you recognize that wall, that moment of total exhaustion, as a shared human experience, you can finally grant yourself permission to rest. You are not alone in your exhaustion. You are simply a human being with human limits. We've established that the pressure to be perfect leads to exhaustion. When you hit that wall of burnout, you can't keep holding it all in. That brings us to fact number 5. The secret crying spell is essential maintenance. This isn't about deep grief or trauma. This is about the sudden, intense, and often inconvenient wave of emotion that sweeps over you. Maybe you saw a commercial with a golden retriever, or a song came on, or perhaps you just couldn't find your keys. It's the moment the dam finally breaks, and you need a brief, intense cry, just to hit the emotional reset button. Where does this happen? Usually in places of unexpected privacy, the car in the parking lot before you head into work, the bathroom stall, the pantry while pretending to look for snacks, or the shower where the sound of the water hides the sobs. For a moment, you feel silly, overwhelmed, and completely alone, convinced that you are the only one whose emotions are so volatile that they require these dramatic, hidden moments of release. But let me tell you the truth. A moment of emotional release is a shared, necessary act of human maintenance. Tears are a biological mechanism for purging stress hormones. That hidden cry isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign that you are a functioning human whose brain is actively trying to regulate its stress level. You are not alone in having your own designated ugly cry spot. You are not alone in feeling overwhelmed by something seemingly small. When you allow that moment to happen, you are simply giving yourself the emotional rainstorm required to clear the air. So, the next time you need 5 minutes in a quiet closet, Just know that countless other people are finding their own hidden space right alongside you, proving that we are all just trying to manage the complex, beautiful chaos of feeling things deeply. Fact number 5 was about what happens when we're alone. Now let's talk about what happens when we look at everyone else. Fact number 6 is that we are all victims of a collective delusion. We are all comparing our reality to the highlight reel. We live in an age of constant, immediate visual connection. We open our phones and are instantly shown a stream of perfection, the perfectly filtered vacation, the spotless kitchen, the glowing career success, the effortlessly happy family photo. We absorb these images and, without even realizing it, we start a devastating calculation. How does my current, messy, anxiety-ridden Tuesday afternoon measure up against their absolute best, most polished moment? The answer is, of course, that it never measures up. And that comparison leads to a deep, profound twinge of inadequacy, that sinking feeling of FOMO, or fear of missing out, or more accurately, the fear that everyone else is making it and you are not. Here is the truth that proves you are not alone. We are all doing this, and we are all suffering from it. The person whose perfect photo you just double-tapped, they probably took 30 tries to get that shot. They cropped out the fight they just had with their spouse, the pile of laundry that's been sitting there for 3 days, and the very real anxiety they feel about their financial health. They curated their life to show you a tiny, ideal fraction. So, the next time you feel that twinge, remember this fact. Remind yourself, I am viewing a finished product, and I am living a work in progress. Your reality, the struggle, the quiet moments, the imperfection, is valid. By simply having this internal conversation, you are joining the vast majority of people who are fighting the same battle against the glossy fantasy. We're constantly comparing, performing, and fighting the pressure to hustle. This leads to a deep, profound social exhaustion. And that brings us to fact number 7. The urgent need for quiet is a vital sign. This is not about being antisocial. This is about that beautiful, terrible moment when you look at your calendar, see 3 social engagements, and experience a massive, internal groan. You realize your social battery has hit 0. Maybe you're already dressed, maybe you're already halfway out the door, but a powerful, non-negotiable feeling washes over you. I must cancel, and I must be alone. We then spend 15 frantic minutes crafting an elaborate, Oscar-worthy excuse about a sudden migraine, a mysterious stomach bug, or a pet-related emergency, all because we fear the honest truth will offend. We fear people will think we're rude, flaky, or simply don't like them. Here is the truth that proves you are not alone. Cancelling plans for mental health is not rudeness, it is necessary human solitude. The quiet longing for space, for a dark room and silence, is a universal human need for decompression. We are constantly absorbing noise, information, and other people's energy. Retreat is not a luxury, it is a prerequisite for survival. The person who truly understands this is the friend who, when you text them with your migraine excuse, texts back one simple word: stay. We are all taking necessary breaks. We are all craving that solitude. So, the next time you need to hit that quiet button, let the urgent need for retreat be your proof that you are listening to your human need for balance, and that need is shared by everyone. This is the right moment for fact 8. After the much-needed retreat of fact 7, the mind often turns its attention and its anxiety toward the unknown future. When we finally allow ourselves to be quiet and still, what does the mind do? It often doesn't rest, it begins to catastrophize. That brings us to fact number 8. The what-if loop is a global obsession. This is the anxiety-driven process of taking a minor future uncertainty, a presentation next week, a job interview, a financial decision, and turning it into an apocalyptic scenario. You don't just think, what if I mess up the presentation? You leapfrog directly to, what if I mess up the presentation, get fired, can't pay the rent, and end up having to live in a cardboard box under a bridge? We get trapped in this loop, convinced that by thinking through every terrible outcome, we are somehow preparing for them, or maybe even preventing them. We spend vast amounts of mental energy imagining a future that statistically has a less than 1% chance of actually happening. And in that moment of spiraling fear, you feel isolated, believing your brain is uniquely broken or that your anxiety is simply too much. But let me give you the powerful truth that proves you are not alone. The what-if loop is not a premonition, it's a sign that you care deeply. Anxiety is often an over-caffeinated form of caring. It is your brain's clumsy, overzealous attempt to protect you from harm. Every single successful, ambitious, or loving person deals with this loop. They too stare into the darkness and conjure up absurd, dramatic disasters. The trick is not to stop the loop, you can't, but to recognize it as a universal human pattern. When you hear that panicked voice asking what if, simply label it, there's my human brain, doing the global what if loop again. And by labeling it, you instantly join the billions of people who are wrestling with the exact same irrational, beautiful mess. We've now exposed 9 of the secrets we keep hidden: our imposter syndrome, our regrets, our fear of mediocrity, our burnout, our secret cries, our crippling comparisons, our need for retreat, our catastrophic worries, and our abandoned goals. All of these truths point to one unifying, essential human need. That brings us to our final and most critical fact: we are all desperate for deeper conversation. Think about the sheer exhaustion of small talk. How's the weather? Busy week, right? Any fun plans for the weekend? We default to these pleasant, surface-level exchanges because it feels safe, but there is a quiet, collective longing underneath every one of those interactions, a yearning to skip the surface and ask, "How are you really doing?" and hear an honest answer back. We crave authenticity. We want to be seen for who we are, messiness and all. The reason we feel so drained after an hour of social chit-chat is that our minds and hearts are wired for meaningful connection. We are social animals whose well-being depends on belonging and vulnerability. When we only skim the surface of conversation, we starve that essential, evolutionary need. And here is the powerful, unifying truth: your longing for connection is your proof of connection. If you are sitting here today feeling that hunger for one genuinely meaningful exchange, so is the person next to you. You are not the only one exhausted by pleasantries. You are not the only one waiting for permission to be real. We are all holding our breaths, waiting for someone else to go first, to be vulnerable enough to say, "This is who I am, and this is what I struggle with." That deep, quiet ache you feel is the universal language of humanity. We are all seeking authentic connection. We are all waiting for someone to go deeper. We have walked through 10 facts tonight. 10 secrets we often carry in silence. We've seen the imposter whisper that we're frauds. We've felt the replay shame us with old mistakes. We've been paralyzed by the fear of mediocrity. We've hit the burnout wall and had that necessary secret cry. We've suffered the exhaustion of comparison against highlight reels. We've desperately sought quiet. We've spiraled in the what-if loop. And we've stood in the failed goal graveyard, all while desperately yearning for a deeper conversation. These are heavy truths. But look around this room. Look at the people sitting next to you. By bringing these facts into the light, we realize something critical. Your struggle is not an outlier. It is a universal bridge. The things you think are unique signs of your weakness are, in fact, the most profound evidence of your humanity. The lie of isolation melts away when you realize that every single person you admire, every person you connect with, shares a version of those 10 facts. So, what do we do with this shared knowledge? We use it to shift the way we connect and, most importantly, the way we treat ourselves. I want to give you 2 concrete, simple actions to take when you leave here today. Call them your permission slips. Give an honest answer, the outward shift the next time someone asks you, "How are you?" I challenge you to respond with an answer that is 5% more honest than usual. You don't have to launch into your 10,000-page internal novel. But instead of saying fine, try saying, a little tired, but grateful, or I'm pushing through a tough deadline. You are giving the other person a gentle invitation to be real, and you are normalizing the struggle. You are saying, I am a person, not a pamphlet. Give yourself grace, the inward shift the next time you find yourself stuck in the replay of regret or the imposter syndrome. Don't judge the feeling. Instead, remember these 10 facts. Let the shame and fear be replaced by a simple, powerful thought. This feeling is my membership card to the human race. Extend the same kind of non-judgmental kindness to yourself that you would instantly give to a friend. We often try to succeed by putting on armor, by pretending we are perfect and impermeable. But the path to true connection and resilience is through vulnerability. It is through accepting the beautiful, complex mess of being human. So, let's leave here tonight giving each other, and ourselves, the quiet grace that comes with knowing the undeniable truth. You are not a solitary struggle. You are part of a profound, messy, beautiful, and global chorus. Thank you. You are not alone.